Pink Poodle Crafts, join the Poodle Pack. It's time to get creative and make you laugh. Make your own art today. Pink Poodle Crafts is the way.
What a good boy. Hello, crafty family. How are you guys? Hope you guys are doing well. Today I want to show you something that I was working on in a live stream for my Patreon. If you don't know what that is, my Patreon, the link is listed below. Basically, it is where you can sign up, and there's different tiers you can sign up for, and it's a way to support my channel, and also in return you get things, you also get things for yourself, like access to all of my private live streams, which I do at least one a week, if not more. And that's where I'll do sometimes experimenting, and you'll get to see before anybody else if I discover something new or interesting or, you know, whatever. You'll see it before anybody else, and that starts at $1 a month, like literally just $1 a month, and then you get any live streams that I do that are not public. Also, there are other tiers from there where there's various things. There's craft classes every month and all kinds of fun things. So check it out. Link is in the description. It's called Patreon. Yeah. So what I was doing in that live stream was playing around with paper. I had done a video a while back on making like collage papers where you would take inks and whatnot and you would spray them on a bunch of your deli papers. And obviously I used a piece of that one. And make really pretty papers with it. And what I ended up doing was making several different collage papers. And I discovered something new with that, which I'm not necessarily, if we have time I'll do, but I discovered, which that one I accidentally must have let it fold over on itself before it was dry. But I discovered a way to give it like a shine and also add glitter to it without having to add like bulky glue. So we might touch on that. If not, I'll do it in another video, but because I kind of already did those papers in the past. But I have some really cool papers that I discovered how to do, which by the title, I'm sure you figured it out. I figured out how to tie-dye deli paper, which I've seen other people on YouTube like say, oh, I made tie-dyed paper, but it really wasn't true tie-dyed. It was more, like more of a faux tie-dye. But this is actually truly tying it or, whatever to get the result. And I did several. I did that one as well. And then this one. And I just think they come out really pretty. And they're quite easy to do. Now, typically, when you tie-dye something, like a shirt or a piece of clothing, you would use rubber bands a lot of times. I know that people do sometimes use string or whatever, but most of the time you would use rubber bands. But in this case, we're going to use string just because rubber bands would be rougher on the paper. And this is a lot easier to deal with, even though it's it can be a little bit of a pain in the ass in some ways, but I'll show you that in a minute. But if you don't know what deli paper is, basically deli paper is tissue paper. It's kind of a tissue paper, and it's not wax paper, but it's got a wax kind of in it. It's called deli paper because that's what it's meant for. It's like when you go to a deli and you would get a sandwich wrapped, and that's like what you get, or like if you go somewhere and order a basket of fries and they give you that weird plastic basket, they usually stick a piece of this. Sometimes it's red and white checked. You guys know. And what's cool about deli paper is a lot of people use it on their jelly plate, but it doesn't rip very easily. And when you wet it, unlike copy paper, if I were to take copy paper and soak it with water, it would just literally start to disintegrate. Whereas this doesn't do that, and it's probably because of the wax that's in it. However, it's still very absorbent. So it's got a very small amount of wax, enough to keep it from falling apart, but still be absorbent, which is why this is a good paper to use. Plus it's, big enough. It's like 12 by 12, which is what you need for this at least, because you want at least a larger piece of paper. You don't want to be trying to do it on a tiny piece of paper, but copy paper will not work for this. It'll just tear. And most other papers wouldn't work. I think you could probably do this with coffee filters, but that's not really paper, because that has something else in it that it's like not exactly paper, and they're not very big either. So, and I mean, you could do it with it, and I've seen it done with that, where you're actually tying it. But I thought it was, I haven't seen anybody do it with deli paper. I actually looked to see, because I was curious, and I didn't see anybody doing it with deli paper. I seen people doing like a faux tie-dye with tissue paper, but they weren't really tying it. You can also tie-dye with baby wipes. Baby wipes work great. You can just pull them right out of your thing wet. And, I would let it dry a little bit so it's not sopping wet, but you want it to be a little damp because it'll help the water or the ink kind of flow better. Because if it's really dry, you would think it's going to, the drier it is, it's going to soak up more ink. And that's kind of true, but it won't flow through the whole piece the way you need it to. And you'll have like a lot more white spots if you don't, dampen it first. So what I like to do is, what I discovered is the easiest way is to take pieces of string, and I'm going to say just a cheap string. You don't want to use anything cheap, thin, not thread, because you want to be able to find it when you go to have to cut it all out, because that's part of this. So you want like, I don't know, I would say like 4-inch pieces approximately. Just eyeball it and just cut a bunch of them. Just, get a cheap dollar store, regular twine. You don't want anything that's like synthetic, where it's, like how sometimes you'll tie something, and since we're not going to be tying it in a complete knot, we're just going to tie it once, like the beginning of when you tie your shoe, and you just do that loop over and boop, and that's it. And and then you start the little loops to, you know what I mean? The little rabbit ears. Before that, it's that little, we're just doing that so that it's not tied so kind of tight that it's really hard to get open. So just use something cheap and something cotton, because cotton, even if you just tie it once with that little twist, it'll stay shut. Whereas anything like nylon or stuff like that is going to like unravel, and you're going to be like, damn it, and be mad about it, because it's just going to be annoying. Even though this stays so tight, even with just one little tie, that at the end it can be like, damn it, to try to get it off. So, but I'll show you the tricks that I learned. What you need obviously is your deli paper. You need your string cut into pieces. Just cut a bunch out. And you'll need, obviously, you either need some sprays. You don't want like anything like paint. You want it to be like ink. Make sure it's like an ink spray of some sort. You can use, any of the sprays that you would typically use, Lindy's, Tattered Angels, Art Anthology, or your homemade ones made out of printer ink, or you can just use straight printer ink, which works fantastic. Now, I've mentioned printer ink several times. I think that for the money, I think printer ink is one of the best things for crafters that you can get, because you can get a whole set plus black, I don't have it here, of 6 inks. That would be the light cyan, the yellow, the magenta, the light magenta, and the regular, the light and the regular cyan, whatever, and a black. And you can get all of that for like $15 to $18. And these are giant, pretty big 100 ml bottles, compared to like, you know, something like this, which is a lot thinner, and these are much bigger, you know, this is only 59 milliliters. So it's a little bit more than half of what's in here. You know, so these are much bigger, and they go a long way because they're so much more concentrated. So you can make your own kind of Tattered Angel spray by using some of this with some water and a little bit of mica. And bam, you have your own Tattered Angels type of spray. So, and you can make tons of it with just one bottle, and you can mix them together. You know, if you use a little bit of yellow and blue, you'll get green, and then add a little bit more blue and it'll become like, you know, teal. Add a little bit more yellow, it's going to become more turquoise. So like you could play around with it and mix your own colors. You can obviously printer, I mean, that's how you make every color in the rainbow with blue, red, but this is magenta, same thing, and yellow. You can make every single color under the rainbow with that. So it's definitely worth it, because the one paper that I did, I think it was this one that I did the printer ink with. I mean, as you can see, I've got every color under the rainbow in here. Orange and green and pink and purple and teal and a turquoise, you know, and green. I've got like magenta. I've got light pink. I've got like a lime green. I've got a dark green. I've got every color is in this, and that's just from, I didn't even mix them ahead of time. I was just mixing them together on here and just putting things next to each other, and it just came out, you know. And this is from sprays, and it's, you know, this is from using sprays, and I got more color out of using the printer ink. You know what I mean? So honestly, it's just, printer ink, if you're on a budget, is going to be your best friend, because you can make alcohol inks, you can make sprays, you can use it straight out of the bottle, you can do a lot with it, and it's cheap. Like I said, just go online, and I'll try to remember to put a link in the description. But yeah, you can get it on eBay. You can get all 6 inks for like less than $20, and that'll last you a long time, because you could dilute it with water, because these are so concentrated that if you wanted to make like this blue color here, you would probably only fill it up like 1/8 of the way, and then put water and your mica, and that's it. So, you know, you can do a lot with it. So anyway, you got your string, you got your paper, you're going to wet your paper. You're just going to basically dampen it. You know, you're not going to like, and it doesn't matter even if you did wet it all the way, you know. I mean, your deli paper is going to be like wrinkly. It's going to look like almost like crepe paper when it comes out. Now, you can take the time to iron it, but if you're just using this as collage paper or whatever, you know, I don't think you need to go through the trouble. So you just want to make sure that during the process that you're tying it and stuff, that you keep it, you know, relatively damp. So tying it, I can't really tell you exactly how you should or shouldn't tie it. You can go online and find some basic patterns on how to tie something square for making certain things, like if you wanted certain designs, you know, but I kind of just do a willy-nilly. I used to know some designs from doing t-shirts and stuff, but I don't remember a lot of them. So the first one that I had done, this one here, which is really cool, it's like striped with the bands, and I did this with sprays. And it got lighter. It kind of ombres out. I could have gotten it darker if I would have let it sit, but I was just wanting to, this is the first one I did, and I wanted to see how it was going to come out. But if I would have let it sat, it would have gotten more color to more areas. But all I did for that one is I took it and I basically just folded it, made like inch-long folds, and just literally did this and rolled it up, because I've done this before with t-shirts, and just do that. And then I think I folded it a little bit more like this, and then I just took the string, because this was my experimental one, and you know, I didn't want to do anything super fancy or take a long time, because I wanted to see what it was going to look like. So I took it, and like every inch to 1.5 inches, and what you can do is just tie it like that, and don't make a knot. Just do that and pull it tight. And that's all you have to do. And then like every inch, 1.5 inches, I put another one. and I just pulled it tight. And what you want to do too is cut off the excess. So you can cut it pretty far down. You can pretty much cut it all the way down is actually the best thing to do, because you're not going to want that to be in your way when you go to pull the knot out. It's easier if there's less there. So you're just going to go through and do that all the way down. And you can do them closer together if you want, further apart if you want. So basically I just tie it a little bit and then cut off the ends. And if it starts to get a little dry, just spray it again. It doesn't rip when it's wet, which is cool. That's, you know, every other damn paper rips so easily. And it's nice that this doesn't rip, which is why it can handle being tied so tight like this. You know, there's no paper that you could do that with. However, I think you might be able to do some basic stuff with, if you have rice paper. I was thinking about that, and I thought, I bet you, and I have rice paper too, but I didn't get it out because I don't know where the heck it is. But I was thinking, because rice paper is pretty strong too when it's wet. So I bet if you had a piece of rice paper, you could probably do it with that. I would test different things that you think might work, but I know like just standard paper or cardstock and stuff like that won't work, and regular tissue paper is just going to rip immediately as soon as you wet it. Obviously, because that's how I cut things out of tissue paper, is just, or napkin, is just ripping it. And if nothing else, use a baby wipe or a paper towel. I meant to say that too. You can use a paper towel. However, if you use a paper towel, don't wet it first. Tie it. And then you can dampen it after it's tied, and then put your inks on. Because if you wet it first, it will start to rip. So you can tie it first, and then you can spray it with some water, let it soak in for a little while, and then go through and put your, you know, inks on and all that stuff. So it's just kind of a way to do that. But with the baby wipes, you know, you should, you know, if it's not a wet baby wipe, then you should be able to wet it and still tie it, because they don't rip as easy. So there's that one. And now you can just go through and, you know, start with whatever color you want. Like maybe I'll, I keep opening that the wrong damn way. I just need to open the little top here. And I'm using it straight out of the bottle. You could dilute some in bottles and not make it so strong, because I was spraying it with a little bit of water after I put it down because it is so concentrated. Oh, and you know what I did? I got gloves this time because I still have blue. My hands were literally black because of the mixture of colors. So you want to use gloves unless you don't care that your hands are literally going to be like really, really colored for a few days. So get yourself a pair of rubber gloves. I am going to be smart this time and use rubber gloves, because I'm going to set a good example. You want to use rubber gloves. All right, so I'm just going to start by making this middle section, and you want to do it right over the knot on your thing, and kind of give it a little help by, and whatever gets, you know, use a glass mat or a mat of some sort, and don't be afraid to like rub it in there and give it a little water and kind of squeeze that ink into the center so it like penetrates all the way through. And then you want to, before you go on to the next one, move that out of the way in case it mixes with something that's not going to be happy with. See, and it already like went like that. So then I'm going to use, we'll do the light one over here. I keep doing that. It's this little one on top. Now we're going to do this one, and we're going to put this one over here. And we're going to spray some water on it. And you really don't need very much, because as you see, it just starts to really penetrate. And it's already making like a teal color there. And that was the blue hitting the yellow. And then we'll take some of the darker blue over here. I did it again. This one needs to be opened. I will say these are pain in the butt to open, I'll tell you that much. This top on these don't like to come off at all. Quite a pain in the ass, actually. I need a pair of scissors. This is annoying. Like, I hate when they put these seals on here, but don't give you any way to get it off. So you're like, oh, that went in there. Great. They don't give you anything to pull to get it off, and it's like literally stuck on there. And with the inks, it's like, do it with your gloves on, because otherwise one drop of this ink will stain the crap out of your hands. So just an FYI. So you want to get enough of this on there. Give you color. And all you need really is just a few drops, because then you're going to spray the water and like push it in. So I'm probably putting way more on here than I need, which is fine. All right. And my baby wipe will be pretty. It already is. So I'll probably use a different baby wipe, because this one came out really pretty. And I don't want to spoil it with other colors. So because you can obviously get some really pretty colored baby wipes out of the deal. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So we did all that on that side. Let's do some, let's make some greeny tealy color over here. What we're gonna do is put some of that on, right? And make it all green looking. Like we did for that, but we're gonna this time go through and, you know what, we can use some more yellow on this. This one can handle some more yellow, but is it the darker blue that I want? Maybe. Let me see. But that's just a drop of that. And then start squirting it with the water. That's what's gonna start to give you the color you want. Well, I guess now we got the green. Let's try the light blue, because I think maybe that was the one I used. Yeah, I think so. Yep, that's the one that'll give you the teal, the light cyan. And since there's so much green on there now, I have to kind of soak some of it out and then re-soak up some of the blue to get that blue to take, which might be a difficult task. So this is going to be fun. See what I mean about how much color it actually deposits onto everything? It's very, very concentrated. So, I mean, and that's like, it's just crazy. So I'm going to have to actually take some color off and then add some of the blue. And really just need, there we go. Now it's turning the color I want it to turn. See, now it's like, it probably doesn't look it on camera. It's still turning green though. Oh, there we go. We need that darker blue is what it is. There's just a lot of green in there. And I don't know how to get that to, it might not work for me because I put so much green in there. Well, we'll just have to see how that looks when it's undone. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. That's what happens if you put a little too much ink. What's going to happen is the inside of that's probably going to look really cool, even if the outside looks almost pure green. So now I'm going to add a little more yellow here to give this like a more lime color maybe, so that it's a little bit less dark. So it's just a matter of playing around and you'll get like an interesting mix of colors. And a lot of cool baby wipes as well. Alright, so now working towards this end, we've already got a little contamination, which I'm going to try to spray out of here. Which you could do that too, is just a little bit to lighten it up. Unfortunately, it's like hard to do. There we go. It's fine. Because I want to add some pink down here. And there goes the dogs, of course. Quiet. This time I'm going to be gentle with and not put so much on. And soak that in there good. Quiet, girls. They've always got to be so noisy. And then, my yellow's turning green. That's okay. The inside's going to look much different. And then we've got this color pink. And then we add blue. And we get purple. All we need is that little bit of pink to get the purple color. All right, you can't see it. Looks probably really dark to you, but it's purple. Purple. And we'll put a little lighter color in here to get the edges to be a different kind of purpley color or something. All right. So now what you would do, and what I suggest that you do, is let it dry all by itself. Just leave it overnight. And then if it's still wet, you can take your heat gun to it. Because I think that would be the best way. I'm going to let this sit, and I don't know if I'm going to unveil that today, but just so you know, it'll look like this, but likely that one, because I saturated it much more, and I'm going to leave it for a while, is going to have the color all the way pretty much. So now I just want to do one more to show you. I'm going to move that out of the way. Just clean this up so I don't contaminate my next page before I even get it done, which is possible and likely. So I'm going to probably spray this, and it's going to be already color on it. Yes, I already got yellow on it. That's the thing. But that's okay, because you're going to spray it and it'll be fine. So this one, now this one I'll do a little bit differently. I still have string left over, right? No? Oh, maybe I don't. Okay. Well, I'm going to cut myself some strings. I usually just eyeball it. I don't want to make them too small because then they're hard to handle to try to tie. But I don't want to make them too big so that I'm wasting a ton of string. But now, on one of them that I made, I went crazy and was making all kinds of little ties and knots and things. And in this paper, I wanted to see how much the paper would hold up to it. But you can just like do one in the center, and just if you twist, and if you twist, you get like a cool, which this one I didn't do right, and I'm getting yellow on it, but that's okay. If you like twist it, now I kind of did it wrong, I think, the first time when I did it, even though it came out, it's still got, no matter how wrong you think you did, tied it, no matter how you tie it, it's going to come out cool. The only thing that could screw up is if you add color and the colors don't go together and you make mud. You accidentally make like a mud. that's the only place where, you know, you can potentially cause yourself aggravation. So I made it like swirled in the center, and I kind of just gave it enough room so I can put a string around it. Which sometimes you need a little bit of a bigger string for something like that. Yeah, I'm going to need just a little bigger pieces so I have a little room to tie it. But I'm going to tie it first and then put it on. It's sometimes easier to do that. Like do this and then stick it over it. And then I'm going to tie it. And I'm just tying the little nub that I was twisting in the center kind of. And you don't have to be neat about it. You don't have to be precise about it. It's not like that. Just do anything and it'll come out cool, I promise. Don't be afraid to just, you know, just be like, whatever, you know, and just do it. Like this is like half-assedly done because this is like barely tied. Who cares? And then your end pieces, which I'm going to take that and throw away. Your end pieces here you can twist as well and do things with. So you can just twist it like this, and then you could take it and you could put strings all the way up it, or you could twist it and like fold it in on itself and then twist it again and then tie it. All right, and if it doesn't stay, you can take your scissors and stick it around like that till you get your string ready. So, you know, if it starts to unravel, that's why it's good to use it while it's wet, because it usually will hold the twist that you're putting in it, or anything you're putting in it will generally hold a lot better. If you wet the paper, it'll keep its like shape as you go. If you use dry paper, it's just going to unravel every time and you're going to get annoyed with it. So, you know, here's some more twisting. You can also like twist it and like fold it completely, or like twist it and fold it once, fold it twice, or you can actually do like where you twist it, like you're just basically twisting it and then curl it in on itself. I have such a hard time working with gloves on. That's why I never wear gloves, because they get on my nerves so badly. Because even, you know, it doesn't matter what size they are, they just never seem to fit my fingers. They're always too big and they feel very floppy at the end, and I can't stand that. I just don't like them on my, I don't like the way they feel. I don't like nothing about them. So that's why I don't usually wear them. But because my hands were so incredibly dyed the other day, I just felt gross because I didn't even want to touch any food to eat it. Even though I had washed my hands 1,000 times and they were not dirty necessarily, they were just stained really bad. And once again, I don't have a voice because it seems like every time I do a video, I lose my voice, because I seem like when I'm doing a live stream, I don't have to like, I don't know, I don't have to constantly fill dead air, it seems like, because everybody's chitter-chatting in the chat, and I can just work on what I'm doing and chat back and forth. But I feel like when I do a video, I have to like constantly have something to say. And lately, it's been like a really big strain on my voice. Anyway, so, and then we got another one over here. And you can just do different things. Like there's no, you know, I would just start out by putting a bunch of ties in places, because the ties are where you're going to get those cool like white marks. That's why like when I see people, you know, saying, oh, I tie-dyed this or whatever, and they didn't put any string or rubber bands, that's not really tie-dyeing then, it's just dyeing. You know, it's tie-dyeing is when you have strings or rubber bands and you make, you know, areas, you know what I mean? You have the areas under the string that doesn't get the same amount of ink type of thing. That's what tie-dyeing is. So anybody else that's doing anything is basically faux dyeing, faux tie-dyeing, not really actually tie-dyeing. They're just dyeing. They're just dyeing, but you can still put patterns in it. Even just, you know, sometimes you could twist things and put patterns in it without tying it, of course. But, you know, this one I'll do like that because it's so small now at the end. But yeah, this is I should have put the gloves on after and took them off while I'm tying, because that's the worst part, is trying to tie everything and have it be weird. Now this one, I'm just gonna go like, I'm gonna do that thing I had done before on one of the other ones, where I do, this time do an accordion fold and just go a little bit in, flip it over, do it this way, flip it over, do it this way, and you just do different things. I mean, just play. No matter what you do, it's gonna come out cool. I promise. As long as you, like I said, it's more important that, and now I'm going to take it and fold it over like this and over like this and then tie it again. As long as you're not making mud out of your colors, and if you don't know basic color mixing, find a video and learn that first. Like if you don't know how to mix very basic colors, like you don't want to put, pink and yellow together are going to make an orange color. And then you don't want to go adding blue to that because it's going to make mud, Same with like yellow and blue together, and then you're not going to want to add pink to that, unless you want like mud. And, sometimes if you have the light cyan and the regular cyan, they can act a little bit differently with certain colors. So it's just kind of a crapshoot. I would sit and play with the colors first and see which ones go nice next to each other. Like just on a regular piece of paper, just, or watercolor paper or something, because you can pretty much watercolor with these inks because they're dye inks, and you can watercolor with dye inks. They're dye inks just like the dye inks that you would find in your ink pads from certain companies that, do dye inks. Well, that's what these are, except they're just really concentrated more than you would even find in your ink pads. Okay, so I tied that one. It looks like a jumbled mess. That's how they mostly will end up looking, is like a jumbled mess. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to pull that out a little bit. If you have areas like this where it's a big chunk that's all bundled up, this type of thing is going to be harder to penetrate. So you're going to want to make sure that you add plenty of ink and then put some water and ink. And usually if you start with that, you'll have better results because then you won't have to put so much water. Like if you start with all these where you don't need as much water and then you do this and you're spraying water, you're going to start like mixing things you didn't want to mix. So start with the middle one and then move out from there. And you don't have to use every color under the rainbow. You can start off with just a couple colors. Like I'm going to throw in some pink and yellow and some yellow on the like edges of it. And, you want to also make sure with something like this that you're getting as far underneath of it and underneath this way as well. And now I'm going to start spraying water on it, and that's going to soak it in, and it's going to start making an orangey pink, which I like. And I want to do a little squishing, which is going to make the colors blend as well. And you don't want all the colors blending together necessarily, but I am now going to add some more pink because I don't want it to be completely orange. All right, so that's good. So now maybe I can do some like light color on the outside, like a light cyan. What do I do with that baby? I guess I need a new one. I just need to get some of this out of the way. And I'll put a dab of that on here and maybe a dab of that here. I'll do like the light ones and then the dark ones on these ones over here and mix colors accordingly and see what happens with the different colors of that. And don't be afraid too to leave like some white space if you wanted to. Like you don't have to fill in every ounce of it. I always end up doing that just because it just ends up that way. But if you have a little bit and you let it sit, it's all going to start to seep together too. You just want to make sure it gets to the depths of any kind of bulky kind of things you got going on. Let's see. Let's add a little yellow here. And drop a yellow here, which which will seep down there and make that even more turquoisey and teal colored. That's looking good to me. All right, so I'm thinking that you got the idea of what you need to do. And then once you do it, whoa, you're gonna let it sit. You wanna make sure that these inks don't get on your carpet, don't get on your clothes unless you don't care, because they will stain it and you will not be getting it off. So, leave that aside. Now, what you can do is, you know, if you get impatient, which I'm going to leave this one, I'll try to take a picture of that and put it in the group of this one over here after it dries. But this one, what I'll do is I'll dry it a little bit, and then I want to open it because I want to be able to show you the easiest ways to open it. So I'm going to put the heat gun on for a second. Bear with me here. You can fast forward through this part if you want to. But I'm going to heat it up a little bit just to, because of course I want my little white marks to show, and if you don't kind of dry it a little bit before you open it up, you're going to lose your white marks under there, because if it's wet enough, it'll basically just seep right under there as soon as you untie it. So you want to kind of, you know, preserve that a little bit. So it's important that you, if you're really going to be impatient with it, to heat it so that it's not so wet. Like mine's pretty sopping, and actually it might be a good idea if I take this and, which is why I think for this purpose I'll sop some of this out, but I wouldn't normally, I would recommend leaving it and letting it completely soak in. But like I said, I want to open it so that you could see, you know, how to open it and stuff. So I'm sopping a little bit of the color out, which will lighten it a bit. I did put enough color on there, so it's not a big deal. And this is fairly thin enough where I think I put enough, like the first one, I know that if I would have put a little more color and let it sit more, it would have definitely gotten to the center, like where it was, because that's where it was rolled up, was where you see, this was the center, this side where it's whiter. So this time it should have gotten in because I was really pressing and making sure it was very wet. I'm just going to call that good enough, just so that... Now I have to take my gloves off for this, so I'm probably going to get stained hands because I cannot possibly try to untie a knot with these gloves on. I'd go insane. It's already going to drive me insane to try to get the knots out, but you know, whatever. Okay, so you could do it two different ways. If you cut your things even shorter than they are, like you want them even shorter than that. So if you can cut them pretty much all the way down without cutting your deli paper, that's the best thing to do. So like literally cut them as far down to the string as possible, because then you will have an easier time getting it untied. Because believe it or not, even though you just tied it like that, like zoop, and that's it, you didn't like go crazy, it's still, the wetness of the ink and everything is going to make those little knots tight as crazy tight. Doesn't, you wouldn't think it, but trust me, I struggled. Even if you dry them. So then you would take your pokey tool and carefully poke underneath of it, and a lot of times it'll do that and come right out. See, I don't have a lot of white space. I probably soaked it a bit too much, but that's okay. It'll still be a really pretty ombre. These are coming out easier this time because I don't think I might not have tied it as tight, which is again probably why there's not really a lot of white mark there. I think I tied it. My shoulder's been hurting me for a couple days, so I think I didn't want to pull too tight because it hurts my shoulder. But you want to pull it as tight as you can get it, really, if you want that nice, like, little white stripe, which is what looks cool. So I didn't tie it very tight. I could tell, because if you were in that live stream, you saw me struggling to get them off, and I tied them the same way. I just tied them tighter the first time, and I had that cool white line, like you can see here, which I love that. So it might be in the middle. I'm hoping it is, but if not, no big deal. It's still going to be really cool looking. I mean, you can't really get paper to look like this any other way. And this is just a very simple design anyway. I mean, it already looks, look, it's already looking really cool. It's got like cool lines in it. Cool, like, lines of color. It's just, it does look really cool, despite not having like perfectly white lines. But yeah, this is looking really cool. See how cool this is? It's like a rainbow. Like, you can't get this any other way without literally painting it and sitting there. I mean, hello, how cool is that? And it being over, it'd be easier if I put it over top of a white paper so you can see it better instead of the black. But it's very vibrant and very pretty. We do have some lines. See the middle, like that middle one went in, a couple middle ones went in really well. See? Very pretty. That is really cool. And it gives you a really cool ombre from one color to the next, very rainbow-ish. And yeah, I love it. This side's just darker. I thought that is so cool. See, and this one, which now I've contaminated all those sheets. This one I'm going to let dry because it's really sopping wet. And I might even sop some of it out just because it's going to take so long to dry. So to do that, you would just take it and carefully press some of the water out, but you want to be, or ink out, but you want to be careful too, because you don't want to press it so much that you mix all the colors together and end up with this one big color. So you kind of want to press it and then just make sure you're pressing it with enough material that it's soaking outward and not soaking into itself. And the more like material you use to press on it, like, don't just grab a paper towel and blot it down, because it's probably going to not work out the way you want it to. Okay, so at least that's pressed out. Maybe I'll open it. It's not going to... I'll dry it a little bit and see if I can open it, because I really want you guys to see it. I mean, it's okay if you open it while it's wet. You just don't want it to be sopping wet, so that when you open it, the colors are still kind of moving towards each other after you take the strings off. Because, you know, you don't want it, if it does give you the white lines, like right here it did kind of give me the light band around it. You want to kind of keep that, you know, if you can. So I'm going to have to go through and cut some of these out, little ends here, so I can get to the knots a little easier. You want to be careful not to cut your paper because you don't want that. I've done that, where you accidentally cut your paper instead of the string. You just want to be careful and use like a small pair of sewing scissors or something. But don't try to slip this under and cut your knot unless you really have to, because I guarantee you will cut a little hole in your thing and you're going to be like, damn it. So, I mean, no matter how careful you are, you're likely going to cut a hole in it. So you're better off using your pointy tool if you can't get the knot out and just kind of working it out slowly. It will eventually come. It really does. All of the ones I did came out. It's just, yeah, they were frustrating, but I got them all out just by working them. When I tried to do it with the scissors, I ended up making a big mess. See, that one I didn't tie very well, so it's going to come apart pretty easily, I think. All right, let's just see what happens. With these, I'll just, yeah, a couple of these, like, I didn't pull very hard. The tighter you pull it, the more of a white line you'll have. Just letting you know. But if you're weak-handed with it, then it ain't gonna be as pretty. See, like this one's being stubborn because you don't want to pull so hard that you rip it. So you just got to work it under there until you get a spot where it undoes it like that. Sometimes it can take a minute. Sometimes you gotta like poke the tool in there and just kind of work it out. Because trying to undo it with your fingers is virtually impossible. And I don't even have very big fingers, and forget it. So a pokey tool or an awl or something with a really sharp edge, not a pin though. A pin, I tried a pin that just pretty much broke. You need something stronger than a pin. But the reason why I say to take the little tails off is because then that's less that it has to unwind, if that makes sense. When you go to start, you know, pulling the knot out, it doesn't have to unwind as much. It can just, you know, unwind quicker without a lot of tails on the end of it. See, like you have to keep turning it sometimes. You have to do it right where that little knot part is. And sometimes you just got to pick at it until it unravels. And I don't think I can grab this with my hand. Maybe I can, this one, because it's right there on the edge. I think I almost ripped my paper, which is another reason why you want to be careful trying to do it with your hands, because you might pinch onto a piece of the paper and rip the paper off. I've done that too. This tool seems to be the most precise way to, and that one was so not done tight enough. I think I got, nope, here's one. That one came off pretty easy. Well, almost. All right, I think I have all of them now. Yeah. Yeah, a couple of these corners came out cool looking. I like how these corners have their stripe. I must have tied these tight enough. And then the center, oh, it did it, yay. The center did the swirl. It's gonna be hard to see until it dries. So what I'll do is take the heat gun to it because the center is so wet still. But you'll see it's got that swirl, that typical tie-dye kind of swirl. That's from twisting it in the center. We'll give you that. It'll be easier to see when it's dry, and I put it against the white paper. Let's see. So you can see it. The color is a little bit weird in here, but like you can see the orange going from there and around. That is so cool. I like that. But I love these bands. See, and like also, you know, when you have it tied nice and tight too, you'll get like these cool little stripes with different colors in it. So that's why it's important to tie it real tight. So you get these cool white, you know, whatever you call them. And then I've got this one here, which is like just like a circle. But see, now if I would have tied it tighter, I would have had a cool white band in the center, which would have looked awesome too. But I didn't tie it tight enough. I should have tied it a couple times actually. One at the very base of it and then one at the middle, and tied it as tight as I could get it. But regardless, like I said, it doesn't matter. It'll still look cool no matter what you do. This one here, from the other day, this one, if you want like a bunch of these little circles, you just go through and pull parts up, and tie it in a couple different places. So you pull up and twist here and do a little one here, do one here, do one here. And that's how you get, like, do it all over the place. Like, I ripped it trying to get it off because I had so many ties in this one. I had it tied here 1, 2, 3 times, here twice, here 2 or 3 times, here 1, 2, 3 times, here 1, 2, 3 times, here once or at least twice. Like, you know what I mean? Everywhere you see the white rings, that's how many times, how many strings was on it. So here there was a piece, here there was a piece, here there was a piece, and then there was another piece, I think, holding this all together. Like, the more you put ties in it, the more different little geometrical whatever patterns or little circles that look like little, you know, explosions you're going to get. So that's what's cool. And right where the string is, you get like this cool variation in the color. So you'll get like the blue with the pink around it. You can't really see it on camera as well. See, there it is, like the purple and the pink. You'll get like this really cool band of color that you won't normally get, which is why this just looks plain. Now, if I would have tied that super tight, I would have had like that cool, these cool variations of color. That's why it's important to tie it super tight. But either way, any way you look at it, it's still really cool looking. You know, you can't really do this any other way unless you're using clothing. But, you know, I love it. I think it's awesome. I think everybody should give it a try. It's easy. I'll put a link also down in the description to where you can get some deli paper on Amazon. So I'll link the printer ink from eBay. I might be able to, I think you might be able to get it on Amazon too. So I'll find different ways and I'll put some stuff down below. So just look for that. And, yeah, I'm going to do a separate video showing you how I did the shiny stuff with the glitter. I'll show you that in a separate video on these other papers where I made like this and how I got the glitter on there. And then how it's shiny. You notice how this is not shiny, like when I move it, and this is shiny. And it's not just the glitter, because the glitter is not everywhere. Like the glitter is not right here, but it's like real shiny. I'm going to show you how I did that and got like these cool collage papers. I even did one that was like a galaxy, which is this one here. This is my galaxy. It's hard to see because my camera makes everything look dark. But there's like blue and pink and purple, and then there's stars. So I'll show you that in a different video. But for now, yeah, these are all lots of fun and beautifulness. And yeah, I hope you will definitely give it a try because it's pretty and fun to do. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And do me a favor and subscribe to my channel if you're not a subscriber. And share this link and show your friends how to do this as well. And give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to check out my Patreon. And also I have a Facebook group. And yeah, there's lots of stuff in the links below. So check all that stuff out. And I will talk to you later. Make sure you do what you love and love what you do. And be nice to people. Bye!